In the late 1800s, in a remote village nestled within the fog-laden hills of England, there stood a grand mansion known as Blackwood Manor. The villagers spoke of it only in whispers, for it was said to be cursed. Many claimed that the souls of those who once lived there lingered, bound to the walls of the house by a dark and twisted force. Blackwood Manor was abandoned for decades after a tragic incident involving the original owners, the Finch family. Thomas Finch, a wealthy merchant, had built the mansion as a symbol of his success. He moved in with his wife, Eleanor, and their 2 young children. But as time passed, strange things began to happen. Eleanor would awaken in the middle of the night, hearing a soft humming that seemed to echo through the halls. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but soon her children began to speak of a woman in white who would sit at the end of their beds, brushing her long, dark hair and singing lullabies that chilled their bones. As the disturbances grew more intense, Thomas, a skeptic, dismissed them. But one night, Eleanor claimed she saw the woman herself. The apparition stood in their bedroom, gazing at her with empty, sorrowful eyes. Eleanor begged Thomas to leave the manor, but he refused, adamant that he would not be driven from his own home by superstition. Then, one fateful night, Thomas and Eleanor were found dead in their bedroom, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. Their children, discovered in the nursery, were silent, alive but unable to speak of what they had witnessed. They were taken in by relatives, but they too would carry the shadow of Blackwood Manor for the rest of their lives, haunted by memories they refused to share. Years later, in 1935, the manor was purchased by a young couple, Samuel and Grace Miller, who saw it as a chance to restore a beautiful but neglected piece of history. The villagers warned them of the manor's curse, but they were undeterred. For the first few nights, all was well. But then Grace began to see things, shadows that moved where they shouldn't. She heard the soft humming in the dead of night and felt the chill of invisible hands caress her face as she slept. Samuel was convinced his wife was just spooked, but that was before he started hearing footsteps echo through the empty halls. One night, while exploring the basement, Samuel discovered an old, hidden chamber. Inside, he found an ancient mirror covered in dust, with a note attached that read, "She watches from the dark." Samuel brushed it off as a strange prank, but the humming grew louder and more frequent after that night. Grace became consumed by an intense fear. She started seeing the woman in white appearing closer each time, at first in the hallways, then at the foot of her bed. One night, in her terror, Grace fled the house, but as she looked back, she swore she saw the entire house bathed in a cold, blue light, with the woman standing in the window, staring after her with those empty eyes. The Millers abandoned Blackwood Manor soon after. Over the years, the house remained unsold, standing as a grim reminder of the families who had come and gone, each leaving behind a piece of themselves. Some say that on foggy nights, if you stand at the edge of the property, you can still hear the soft lullaby, sung by a voice long lost to time, as the ghost of Blackwood Manor watches from the dark, waiting for the next family to claim.